Good evening. I'd like to call the March 15th, 2017 board meeting to order and remind everyone to please use your microphone when speaking. Thank you. Commissioners present are Commissioner Doan, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Bagnall, and Duggan, and myself, Commissioner Schmidt. Next, we will have reports by the CEO and management staff.
Good evening, President Schmidt, members of the board. As usual, we will begin the evening with a safety moment to be presented this evening by our General Counsel, Clark Balfour. I can hardly wait.
What we do have is Carmel Orsini and Lucretia Borgia, Alexander Litvinenko, and Vladimir Putin. What do they have in common? Well, you've always heard of the risk that people had back in 1500s. If you were invited to dinner at Borgia's, you could be in trouble because they poisoned their political rivals. Flash forward to today, we have Putin. Well, what's the relevance of all this now? This is where Mark's getting nervous. But the fact is that next week is National Poison Prevention Week. And the usual prevention tips, I know we've all seen it before, make your home safe. Like we do every day, don't mix household chemicals or things that could create dangerous conditions in gas. Never share prescription medicines, and be careful of prescription medicines. It's very curious, but the largest amount of home poisoning situations arise from the wrongful use of prescription meds.
I thought it was my cooking.
Well, that could be, but
That's right, yeah.
we'll save that for another safety moment, Commissioner Burke. And then finally, keep everything safe and secure and away from pets and kids. Okay, but what happens if you have a problem? Well, first thing, if they're not breathing, call 911. If the person has inhaled something, get them into a fresh air environment right away. If they're coming in contact with their skin, remove those things, that clothes or whatever they're placing them in contact. Rinse eyes if they've been exposed that way. And then call the poison prevention hotline. Now, it's a 1-800 number, but it is localized. So as soon as you call in, you will be in a database and you will be patched into a local EMS type responder where they can then be ready to help you. Now, this is not always easy to do and not always handy, but if you can, be ready. Try to be ready with what it is you think the person was exposed to. A sometimes touchy one.
So like stand by with more poison?
Well, yes. A touchy one could be, trying to estimate for the first responder the age and weight of the victim. So, you'll have to play that one by ear. But then, all the other things as far as how they came in contact, what the length of exposure is, how long since they've been discovered, all those things are valid. So be careful. That concludes the safety moment.
Thank you. Sadly, I recall here a while back that a 4-year-old child, his grandmother dropped the morphine tablet, and he found it on the floor and took it, and he didn't wake up in the morning.
All right. Continuing on with probably not nearly as memorable staff report. First of all, I want to introduce a new face in the crowd, Matt Oglesby, our interim field operations manager, taking the place of Dale Fishback on an interim basis. Over the next couple of months, we're going to look at staffing assignments, and we will go through a permanent long-term recruitment, regular recruitment for this position. But for now, Matt's holding down the fort, and we certainly appreciate him being here. A couple of announcements. As you know, Portland is switching back to use of the Bull Run as of today. Portland's been using the well field for the last month due to the detection of cryptosporidium in the Bull Run supply. Earlier today, Portland started the process of resuming the use of Bull Run supply and turning off the Columbia South Shore well field. In explaining this operational change to the wholesalers, Portland noted that there had been no new cryptosporidium detections for a couple of weeks, although there was one oocyst detected on March 8th. The Water Bureau believes those detections did not pose an increase in health risk, and that temporarily switching to groundwater allowed the city to essentially move water through the Bull Run reservoirs to get it back to its non-detect status. Portland is continuing to work with local health officials as well as the Oregon Health Authority, as well as monitoring local health occurrence data for the detection of cryptosporidiosis, the disease that results from ingestion of cryptosporidium. The decision to reactivate the Bull Run supply was made after conferring with all of those regulators. And again, basically they got a positive response from OHA and the county in terms of the safety to be able to resume operation at Bull Run. They're going to continue to monitor for Bull Run for cryptosporidium. They're continuing to investigate possible sources of the cryptosporidium contamination that has occurred. And again, with a great appreciation to the City of Portland, they are posting all of those cryptosporidium results on their website. And so all of that data has been shared in a very public manner, and I think that speaks a lot to the Bureau. Moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about our ongoing negotiations with City of Beaverton for an urban services agreement. Last Tuesday, the City of Beaverton City Council held a work session, and they discussed our ongoing negotiations for an urban service agreement between TVWD and Beaverton. And I simply wanted to take a moment to assure the board and our customers that TVWD and Beaverton staffs are continuing to work together to negotiate a fair, equitable, and forward-looking agreement. This agreement, as you know, is extremely important to both of our organizations, and the issues are very complex. They're easily sort of misunderstood and potentially, from that standpoint, confusing to a lot of the players, not the least of which, of course, are the elected officials. As you know, we've tried to take a lot of time to keep our board briefed on this important and complex topic. We're keenly aware that one of Beaverton's fundamental concerns is the rate differential that exists between TVWD and Beaverton customers for the next several years as we continue to move forward with implementation of the Willamette water supply system. In responding to Beaverton's concerns, we're also working to avoid shifting risks and costs to TVWD's existing customers. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to just push those costs over to TVWD's existing customers and expect them to subsidize rates within the City of Beaverton. We'll continue to work with the TVWD board and update you on our progress on the staff's negotiations. And we still look forward to having a joint meeting between the TVWD board and the Beaverton City Council as we get closer to finalizing the agreement. Next up, I've asked Andrew to step in and provide a quick update on the payment gateway process that we have underway.
Thanks. Good evening, President Schmidt, Board of Commissioners. As I mentioned at the March work session, the district has selected a vendor to replace the current online payment and IVR system. The company is Paymentus, and their product had the highest scores from both customer and staff evaluations. Commissioner Doan had a question last week regarding costs. What I can tell you at this point is that the district is currently in contract negotiations with Paymentus. We're looking at pricing parameters and fee models, and we'll do our due diligence to minimize costs. I'll have more to report at the April work session regarding the contract. In the meantime, this implementation will bring many benefits to customers. And as a reminder, the purpose of the project is to realize a better customer payment experience. With Paymentus, there'll be a single sign-on for all account information versus the two we have right now. The user interface is intuitive and mobile-friendly. Password resets and management will be simple. Setting up auto pays will be straightforward, and customers will have the option of making payments without setting up an account. And finally, customers will also be able to pay by text. These are just a few of the benefits that customers will realize from the new payment system, which we're targeting again to go live sometime this summer. Again, I'll have contract and updated implementation information at the April work session. In the meantime, thank you for support, and thank you, customers, for your patience. And I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you. This is a good deal.
And then, just in keeping with the district's mission to provide our community with quality water and customer service, Clark Balfour is here to present the first ever Legal Services Department report.
So, thank you. You're right. This is the first Office of General Counsel report. I'm pleased to announce to you that the legal department is here in full complement tonight. So, anyway, but it's been fun, and this noble experiment that we started in July of last year, we're already 9 months into it, and it's been a lot of work, it's been a lot of fun. So I think it's important to remember that, what do lawyers do besides bother people, generally make their lives miserable, but really what we're trying to do in this role at least is to be a service provider. And when you think about it, I'm really an internal service provider to the various departments. And then sometimes, in fact, many times, that rolls over into an external role as well, in terms of providing a service to the district by representing the district in public forums and with people outside of the district. So there's an internal and an external piece to it. And what's our purpose? Well, trying to assist staff and you in evaluating alternatives, considering legal justifications and risks, and getting you to a place where you can comfortably make a business decision that advances the goals that Mark discussed. We also have to recognize that, it's going to be rare where, the project that we're trying to accomplish, we can achieve 100% with zero risk. And those are really the balancing points that you're always going to have to do. Whether it's in your personal life or your business life, or here in the district's case, the district's purposes and affairs, it's always about, weighing risk and alternatives and how to proceed to achieve the best thing for your customers. So now this is going to be a true experiment right here. So I said, we're going to be an internal service provider, and it really breaks down right now for me into two major categories. One is the WWSP, and the other is providing advice to TVWD on a daily basis. And so internally, we're talking with the WWSP, for example, about all sorts of things: project IGAs, land acquisition, how we obtain permits from environmental regulatory agencies or land use permits for our projects, contracting issues, insurance and bonds, those real day-to-day things that staff needs to know to do their tasks. But then there's an external piece as well. And in fact, some of these external pieces are on your agenda tonight. Project IGAs, like with the county for various segments of the pipeline, opportunity projects, or acquisition of the water treatment plant and the reservoir sites. We've had ongoing discussions for some time about our governance agreements for the Willamette water supply system, that includes Wilsonville, Hillsborough, Sherwood, Tigard, and others. And so those are ongoing things. And then, of course, another item on your agenda tonight is the Wilsonville ground lease for right-of-way through Wilsonville. So I think these are examples of how internal discussions turn to external things. On the Tualatin Valley only side, it's somewhat of the same thing, but a little bit more day-to-day project oriented. So, what does that easement agreement look like? Or what does that developer agreement look like? How do we develop rates and charges in the process to bring those rates and charges forward for your approval? Franchise fees have obviously been a big issue for us lately. And there's a lot of day-to-day staff questions. I'm kind of amazed at the number of drop-ins I have, and drop-ins are welcome. It works well. And then there's always, we buy a lot of stuff here. And so there's always contracting questions that come up. That too also translates to external things. So once we develop an easement or a developer agreement or something like that and put it out to the outside party, now we often have to negotiate those things, because while we try to work with templates and keep those to the firm to the extent we can, there's always variations on a property by property or development by development deal. So we have to make some arrangements, and those are the kinds of negotiations we go through. And then, of course, you're familiar with when we have rates and charges and we have rate hearings, how we notice the public, how we bring the public in, how we respond to them. Those sometimes present legal questions as well. Franchise fees, intergovernmental affairs, property matters, all those things from an external, outward-facing point of view are the things that we the collective we do
The
on a
royal
daily
we.
basis. So hopefully, this has been fun for staff. The goal is to be timely and available. I'm not sure that I've achieved that all the time, but we are striving toward that. And so with that, I'll entertain any questions you have.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I have one comment, and I think it needs to be pointed out that while Clark is probably one of our least experienced employees as an employee, he is by far the most experienced person that has a professional association with this district. I remember him from my very first meeting as a commissioner as being a very able and expert lawyer for counsel to the board, and I think it's fantastic that we have you as an employee now, full-time.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, and also, even though his department has a complement of one, when it's Clark, what else do you need?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Clerk.
Times one is enough.
With that, that concludes the CEO and management staff report for the evening.
Thank you. The commission will now report on recent meetings attended. Commissioner Burke, would you care to start?
It's what I live for. So, yeah. I have 4 meetings to report. Tonight's meeting, the workshop we held on the 7th of March. On the 2nd, I attended a meeting of the West Side Economic Alliance. And on the 17th of February, I attended a meeting of the Oregon Taxpayer Coalition. And that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Bagnell?
I have several to report. First, on the 22nd of February, I met with Alex Cousins and the TVWD branding team to talk about what we're going to do moving forward about getting a new logo, looking at questions like that. Then on the 23rd, I also attended the West Side Economic Alliance Forum, and that was real interesting. A lot of discussion about the 2017 legislative agenda. They had a really good panel. Then on the March 5th through the 7th, I was lucky enough to go to the Oregon Government Finance Officers Association past president's event, and I stuck around for the business lunch so that I was able to see Todd Burton elected as this year's president of the Oregon Government Finance Officers Association. Then on the 7th, we had a board work session, obviously, on TVWD business. On the 8th, we had another branding project team meeting and did make a selection of a consultant, which Alex will be sharing with everyone. And then tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Doan?
Yes. On the 22nd, I met with Mark and with Amy to discuss intern positions in the district. On the 28th of February, I attended a dam safety conference put on by the Water Resources Division. The work session of March 7th, I attended the March 9th Aloha Business Association meeting, and then tonight's regular meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Duggan?
I need to update the board on the workings of the Regional Water Providers Consortium. In the past 2 months, I attended the Regional Water Providers Consortium Executive Committee where we discussed the work plan and budget for this coming fiscal year. And then on February 1st, I attended the Regional Water Providers Consortium board meeting where we adopted the budget and had a fantastic legislative update by Clark Balfour. He made a presentation of everything that's before the state legislature and what they might be doing to address the current issues of the day. And we also received an update on the City of Portland's reservoir issues, both at, primarily at Washington Park, how they're dealing with putting the reservoirs underground, but also keeping an aesthetic surface feature to comport with the historical nature of those facilities that were built over 100 years ago. In addition, this past Thursday, the Regional Water Providers Consortium is celebrating their 20th year this year, and they wanted to interview me for a celebration video that will be presented at their June meeting, which will again celebrate 20 years as a region that we came together to plan for regional supplies and deal with conservation and other issues such as emergency planning. To do that as a group in an efficient way so that no one agency had to that we can share the burden and find efficient ways of dealing with those common issues that we share. And then I've attended the board workshop that we had earlier this month on the 7th and tonight's meeting.
Great, thank you. Well, I have 3 to report. Well, actually 2. On the 7th, actually, Commissioner Duggan and I had a meeting with Mark to discuss tonight's agenda.
Mhm.
And this meeting, for me. And, okay, do we have any topics to be raised by commissioners? None? Okay, this is public comment time. I have no sheets. Do we have any commenters? Okay. Consent agenda. Items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And again, the public hearing, acting as the local contract review board, consider adopting resolution number 1017, declaring an exemption from the competitive bidding for the Willamette Water Supply Program Raw Water Facilities Project, RWF 1.0, and approving a construction manager / general contractor delivery method. All right.
Delivering the staff report this evening is David Kraska.
Thank you, and good evening, President Schmidt and board members. So, as was presented there, I'm here to present the exemption for competitive bidding for the Raw Water Facilities Project. First, a discussion about what are the raw water facilities. This is an aerial of the existing Willamette River Water Treatment Plant, and the yellow dashed line there are essentially what are the existing raw water facilities. Below the water is the fish screen, the intake facility, a raw water pipeline that goes underground to that box there, which is a 45-foot diameter caisson and raw water pump station delivering water to the existing water treatment plant. Now, when we started looking at the existing facility and trying to figure out how we need to expand it for the Willamette Water Supply Program, there was an original plan devised during the initial construction of the treatment plant back in around 2002. And it included delivering water to the upper site nearby the existing treatment plant, installing mechanical and electrical equipment in the existing building, and routing the new raw water pipe on the line there through the existing facility. And as we got into it, in evaluating the program and advancing the design, we found that there are significant challenges associated with that plan. First is that we're moving the treatment plant to a different location. So that means there's more energy and surge control required for the raw water pump station. That's going to take some space. We need to avoid conflicts with the existing raw water pipe, which means that we actually need to find a new alignment for that pipe. We have to address seismic issues, and we also have to maintain continuous operation at the existing treatment plant while we're doing these upgrades. So this graphic shows the current plan that we're going with, and we're going to be going out for. Highlighting in yellow here is, there we go. First starting with the new fish screens, as I talked about before, then the seismic mitigation. So essentially what we're trying to mitigate therefore is from land movement during a major earthquake event toward the Willamette River. So basically we're currently devising a wall to basically retain the soil in that location to prevent movement of our facilities. Then, because there's more energy required for the pumping, we need the surge control facilities and electrical facilities, and the updated raw water pipeline alignment, which goes through the park, which is to the west of the existing treatment plant. And again, to enable facilities, expansion of the existing facilities, we had to move some of the electrical facilities and the standby power facility on the upper site at the water treatment plant. So, in summary, the challenges that we're facing with here are existing treatment plant must remain in operation throughout construction. This is going to require significant specialized construction techniques, both for in-water work and also construction of that wall, the retaining wall along the bank. And the layout of the proposed improvements must accommodate future expansion of the treatment plant. So we evaluated the available options as traditional delivery through design bid build, and we evaluated 3 alternative delivery scenarios. Construction manager, general contractor, also termed CMGC, progressive design build, and a pure lump sum design build. The process we used, we had 2 workshops where we started off in September, reviewing and augmenting the criteria, examining each of the options, and compiling and screening results. Then following that meeting, we did some internal work there to have a follow-up meeting to do a final selection. Now, I would point out that in these workshops, we had multiple people from the program staff, from district staff, from City of Hillsborough staff. We had experts brought in on each of these delivery techniques, and we also had representatives from the City of Wilsonville involved in this, since they are currently running the existing treatment plant. We used 7 criteria to weigh the different alternatives listed here: owner control, operations, contractor input during the design process, cost, risk allocation, schedule, and guiding principles. Guiding principles are what we use in the program to guide essentially everything that we're doing. So we wanted to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with our activities on the program. And finally, we're recommending going with CMGC for the following reasons. The benefits are it provides us a greater degree of owner control. And we see this both during the design process as well as during the construction process through the ability to select both the designer and the contractor. As mentioned in the second bullet. And it's a common approach in the regional market. Most currently, JWC is using this process at their current treatment plant expansion. The additional benefits that we receive from this approach is the contractor participation throughout the design. This is going to be a tough project to build, and we think just leaving it in the hands of engineers to go to bid and to the contracting world is probably not the approach we need. We need contractor involvement during the design process. Value engineering savings during design. So even though this process is about giving an exemption from competitive bidding, we intend to enable value engineering during the course of the design process through both the designer and the contractor, and also bid competitively through open book construction pricing. There are Oregon revised statutes that we have to meet. A lot of words up here that'll basically just say that we have a document where all of the statutes have been met in order to enable us to do this alternative procurement. And here's the schedule. So with your blessing, we anticipate going out with a consultant pre-request for proposals in April 2017, so next month. And really what that meeting is about is to inform the designers that are intending to bid on this project what's it about. So we want to bring them up to speed and inform them about it so that they have a good knowledge of what they're planning to propose on. Later on, as far as our CMGC procurement, that would be happening in Q2 of 2018, the second quarter of next year. So essentially we would get the designer on board, get some of the design done, then bring the contractor on board to finish it off. And as described in those next 2 bullets. So with that, requesting local contract review board action, as noted here. I won't read the whole words, but look forward to any questions you might have about this.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, concerns? Okay, I am opening the public hearing on item 2A. Is there any testimony in support? Is there any testimony in opposition? The public hearing is now closed.
Was he fishing?
Do I have a motion and a second to acting as the local contract review board adopt resolution number 1017, declaring an exemption from competitive bidding for the Willamette Water Supply Program Water Facilities Project RWF 1.0, and approved a construction manager/general contractor delivery method.
So moved.
And I second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Okay, we have no public comments, so I will turn this over to Mark.
So this is a very exciting time for the Willamette Water Supply Program. Obviously, we just approved an innovative contracting strategy associated with the raw water facilities. And what you're about to hear is a couple of very significant property issues that are moving forward. In addition, we're one more partnership project that we have the opportunity to participate with Washington County. And last but not least, we'll close the evening by considering a very significant lease for the use of public right-of-way in the city of Wilsonville. Basically, my point is there are a lot of things going on, and the Water Supply Program team has managed to make tremendous progress over the last couple of years now, and we are truly moving ahead on all fronts in terms of implementing the Willamette Water Supply Program. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dave. He's going to cover a lot of these issues, but I just simply wanted to acknowledge that we have a remarkably talented team. They are working in great partnership, not only within the team, but with other local jurisdictions to complete the agreements that we need to make this a regional project and make it successful. Dave.
Thank you, Mark. So my next two presentations are going to look very similar. They're real estate transactions, but they're separate transactions, but the presentations will look pretty similar to each other. So the first is declaring a public necessity to acquire real property for the water treatment plant site. So the program needs real estate in order to accomplish its goals for the treatment plant, for the transmission pipelines, and then for the terminal reservoirs. Acquisitions will be both in fee title and in easements. This declaration of public necessity is we're implementing a multi-step process. So this is kind of one of the first steps in that process. It is to allow us to proceed with the acquisition, including notification to the property owner, official notification to the property owner of the program's interest in that property, conduct an appraisal, determine the compensation to the property owner for the land, and then conduct the negotiations with the current owner. So in identifying the treatment plant site, we are sure that this is the site that we need, and that's why I'm in front of you tonight to ask for this authority. We have performed, through our functional groups, a detailed analysis of alternatives for the treatment plant site. Seismic resiliency was a key consideration. We wanted to build the treatment plant site on a location that was seismically resilient. And we had 14 criteria in the following categories in evaluating the different alternatives. System compatibility, social and community impacts, opportunities and benefits, environmental and permanent impacts, access and constructability, and operations and maintenance. All of those things came into play when evaluating the 5 alternative treatment plant sites that we considered. So the other thing about not only are we sure that this is the right site, but also this is the right time to conduct this work. We need to get this done now in order to finalize our program definition, to be able to finish our permitting activities that we're doing right now to define where the treatment plant is going to be located, as well conducting the site coordination or the site development and regional stakeholder outreach for the owners that are going to be nearby and affected by the treatment plant activities, and advancing the site-specific community outreach along with that. So unless there's any questions, or I'd be glad to take any questions, but certainly making a recommendation, as noted here, to declare the public necessity to acquire this real property.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, consider adopting resolution number 11-17, a resolution declaring public necessity to acquire real property for a water treatment plant site for the Willamette Water Supply System. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. And all those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
I would like to thank staff for researching all the different options and coming to a very good conclusion. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Consider adopting resolution number 1217, a resolution declaring public necessity to acquire real property for a terminal storage reservoir site for the Willamette Water Supply System.
Thank you. So again, as I mentioned before, we are acquiring property and we're going through kind of a consistent process in doing so. And this is, the next piece of property is for the reservoir site. And again, this is the other element in addition to the pipelines that we'll be working on as we go along. Declaration of public necessity, again, affords us the opportunity to conduct the appraisal and perform the negotiations with the property owner. So then it gets into how do we know that this is the right site? Well, identifying the reservoir location for the Willamette Water Supply Program has been an activity that's been going on for several years now. It started in the preliminary design when over 60 potential sites were evaluated. Through various efforts, that was narrowed down to 11. And then finally, through detailed analysis from both engineering, cost, hydraulic, and other standpoints, we've identified this as the preferred site. Again, detailed analysis using 15 criteria in the same categories that we used for the treatment plant site. Again, remaining consistent through everything that we've done in our program analysis. Again, same sort of consideration here for why do we need to do this at this time. We're planning to submit our permit application next month, and this affords us as well the certainty in terms of what we're defining in terms of our program and where we're planning to conduct or construct our facilities. So in our program decision, that's design, permitting, and construction, and it also allows us to do the site-specific community outreach that we need to do for this particular site. So again, recommending the board adoption of this resolution 1217 for declaring public necessity to acquire real property for the terminal storage reservoir.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1217, a resolution declaring public necessity to acquire real property for a terminal storage reservoir site for the Willamette Water Supply System?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to go on record that I am against eminent domain actions by this board. However, I recognize the need to authorize negotiations and to help negotiations. So that is why I voted for these two motions. I may not vote yes on the motions for eminent domain if it should come to that.
Yeah, hopefully it will
I just
not.
wanted that on record. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
And
you.
again, I'd also like to thank staff for the excellent work in narrowing down the sites, looking at all the options, and coming up with a very good recommendation
Yes.
for the board to consider.
I also applaud staff that in past situations like this, they have been very, very successful at arriving at voluntary agreements between the district and property owners. And I have every confidence that they'll make every effort to do the same thing in these cases.
And I would add to that, living where I do near the Tufel tank, I remember that being a very difficult negotiation, but I can attest as a neighbor, water facilities are good neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. Now, consider adopting resolution number 1317, a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Hillsborough and Washington County for a joint design of a roadway and Willamette Water Supply System water line project in Roy Rogers Road and Tualatin Sherwood Road, known as the Highway 99 crossing.
Thank you. That's a mouthful. So we've been working with Washington County for some time now. Our kind of our biggest first project on the Willamette Water Supply Program was Southwest 24th Avenue construction. So Washington County was constructing that road. It's along the alignment, and so we're building our pipeline along with the construction of that road. It's a great savings to the program. We were able to help Washington County on some of their efforts, and it also avoids the public impacts associated with us going and digging up roads in the future after they're constructed. So getting this done in a coordinated fashion, we think is tremendous benefit. So going along with that, we prepared and the board approved an MOU with Washington County for similar sort of roadway expansion projects along Tualatin Sherwood Road and Roy Rogers Road. And so that was an MOU to basically set up what I'm in front of you now today to do, which is to work on the design IGAs for each of the individual construction projects that we have come along the way. Last month, Todd Perriman was in front of you for what we call our PLM 5.1, and that is the portion of Roy Rogers Road just south of Shoals Ferry Road. So that's an accelerated project with Washington County. They're going to be expanding that road, and we want to get our pipeline constructed along with that. And so that was for a design AGA to coordinate design with them on their project. And so this is very similar to that. It's just a different part of the roadway under that same MOU. And here's where that portion is. So it's the portion of Tualatin Sherwood Road going through Sherwood right at the 99 crossing there. So it's a bit of a congested portion of the road, portion of the area, and we feel coordinating with them is going to be very helpful to both of our needs. This shows in a different sort of graphic its proximity to the 124th Avenue project, as well as the overall what we call PLM4, which is our Tualatin Sherwood area pipeline. As far as some of the facts and figures of this project, we're talking 4,600 feet of our 66-inch diameter transmission main. Our design cost for this project is about $1.2 million, and that work is currently under contract. Our projected sharing cost on this project with Washington County is just over $47,000. Final design will be complete in March of next year, and then the construction IGA will be prepared in October of next year. Through this IGA, we also have cost split methodology about how we're going to share costs on the design efforts, and a lot of the details, the major details are listed here. It's basically, these are to cover design activities. We're going to have a separate IGA for construction activities. If either agency would perform the work, such as some of the surveying work or some of the geotechnical work, we split those costs 50-50. If there's individual costs for our individual parts of the design, then we bear those costs solely. There's some additional, since Washington County would be doing this project anyways, there's some additional meetings that we're going to be having with them and make sure that they have with our designers, and those meetings will be covering the cost of those. And all of these are included in that $47,800 number that I presented in the prior slide. And so with that, make this recommendation for Resolution 13-17, and I'd be glad to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 13-17?
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 13-17. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Consider adopting resolution number 14-17, a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer to enter into a ground lease with the city of Wilsonville and the city of Hillsborough for the use of public right-of-way in the city of Wilsonville for the Willamette Water Supply System water line. Mark?
Commissioners, as you know, one of the key links in the water supply system for the Willamette will be a pipeline that will run from the, I don't have slides this evening, so it's just me. A new raw water pipeline that will run from the raw water facility that you essentially authorized the innovative contracting method on, all the way up to the new treatment plant that you basically provided direction in terms of proceeding with acquisition of property for. And in between, we will have several miles of 66-inch diameter pressurized pipe. About 4 miles of that pipeline will run through the city of Wilsonville. So again, it's a very key link in our supply system. Often organizations like the city of Wilsonville could impose a franchise fee for the use of their public right-of-way for essentially occupying that right-of-way by our pipeline. In this particular case, the city of Wilsonville chose to lease us the right-of-way where our pipeline will be located rather than imposing franchise fees. So over the last year, your staff, actually led largely by Clark Balfour and myself, have worked very diligently and consistently with the City of Hillsborough, our partners on that project, as well as, of course, the City of Wilsonville staff to negotiate the terms of the proposed lease that you have in front of you. Again, we've tried to brief the board on several occasions in the past in terms of the terms associated with the lease, so I'm not going to go into that this evening, but if you have questions about that, we can certainly discuss that. There is one clarification I want to offer. One of the details buried in the terms of the lease is that Wilsonville's approval of the lease is contingent on completing an amendment to our existing agreement between TVWD and the City of Wilsonville as related to operation of the treatment plant. Clark and I have been working on that agreement. I think we're very, very close to completing that agreement. We just simply didn't have it for you this evening, and so we will bring that agreement for your consideration. The goal is certainly by our April board meeting next month. So we will wrap that up. But since we had this agreement ready to go, we wanted to bring it before you this evening for your consideration. I want to acknowledge again that this has been a team effort. It's always a pleasure working with Clark, but also the Hillsborough team with Kevin Hanway and their legal team, particularly Chris Crean, has been added a lot of value. The two of us working together, two organizations working together, have resulted in a really solid agreement. And again, it's just another example of the kind of partnership and the value that we've been able to provide in this program. With that, it's pretty straightforward, and staff recommends board approval of Resolution 14-17.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Sorry, I can't deal with this when I'm talking because it's got a fraction of a second lag. I just want to add my congratulations to the fact that we were able to reach this agreement. And I realize how much work went into it and how many iterations this thing went through. And I think you and your team should be very proud that we have this end result.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, any more questions, comments, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 14-17?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number 14-17.
I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. No other business on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.